The Community Education Channel presents Community View, a closer look inside community issues that matter. It's a glimpse, a preview, bringing public perception to light on local community issues that make a difference. Hello and welcome to Community View. I'm Melissa Anderson. You know, poverty is the main reason for homelessness in our country, and even if we don't see it on our streets, it's a huge issue here in Washington County as well. With us today to talk more about the problem and what we can do about it is Carol Hollowell, the Executive Director of Switchpoint Resource Center here in St. George. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa.
You are basically a resource center, but you're also a homeless shelter. Tell us a little bit about the problems that we have with homelessness right here in Washington County.
Well, it's been an interesting 4 years since we've been open at Switchpoint. And one of the things that we see in homelessness, and we serve approximately 1,200 individuals a year through the homeless shelter. And that's just for the sleeping part. And then another 4,000 that are using some kind of our resources. So that might be the pantry, it might be our community resource center that has classes and such. But we're really seeing a spike in people that are classified in poverty where they just can't make their dollar stretch to stay stably housed, and they end up in homelessness.
And I understand there's two different types of poverty. Tell us about that.
Yeah, what we see is a situational poverty or an intergenerational poverty. And situational poverty is you got divorced, he took everything, and you got nothing. And so your situation puts you into that spot, but you're able to, using kind of your networking and some quick resources, get back on your feet. The difference in that with intergenerational poverty is you've had, and for us, a lot of our clients that we see are 4 generations now just in Washington County, 4 generations deep of intergenerational poverty. So that's all they know is get on assistance, which is welfare, and it's easier to stay on the welfare than to try and figure out how to get off. And so that intergeneration, where you're not learning anything else, we're seeing it in our schools, we're seeing it in the homeless shelter, we're seeing it at any of our human services or social services, where that same group where I've seen grandma, I've seen mom, I've seen kid who's now having a kid. And that's intergenerational poverty.
And that's a huge issue. The state recently just came out with its 7th annual report talking about this very thing. How deep is the problem here in Utah?
It is amazing to me. When we look at poverty in general, we're pushing a 50% mark of people who live in poverty in Washington County. And mostly because we have lower wages and high cost of living. And so, people have to clean the hotels and they have to serve in the restaurants, and they don't make a lot. But when they look at how much they're paying in rent, it's not matching out. The math will never work, and so it keeps them in this extreme poverty level. To me, it seems like it's been growing, and that's just in the data we've collected over the 4 years, because the wages aren't staying. They're not keeping pace with the cost of housing. And so now we have this severely overburdened, people paying more than 50% of their take home just on housing. They don't have enough left over for everything else, which would be medications or food or utilities.
And that creates a gap, correct?
Oh my gosh, the gap. When we really look at what a gap is, and for people that don't understand what a gap is, if somebody is on welfare assistance, okay, so they're getting Medicaid, child care, food stamps, that kind of thing. Those are mainstream benefits. And if you're making a certain amount of money, so $10 an hour, and maybe you've got a second adult in the house also making $10 an hour, if you both got a raise of $1, you would lose all mainstream benefits, because it puts you at what we call a cliff effect. And so you're falling off the cliff. That gap in services before you can ever make enough to pay your bills, that's a serious issue. And so it has created this intergenerational poverty, because people go, wait a minute, why would I give up my welfare? I can never afford to pay my child support on my own at $10 an hour. And so they stay.
And even getting 2 or 3 part-time jobs doesn't cut it. What are we trying to do to address this issue here?
You know, our county has been really trying hard. County Commissioner Victor Iverson has been on board with trying to say, what can we do with our intergenerational poverty? What are kind of some of the pillars of success that we can implant, whether that is transportation, making that better across our county, jobs, housing costs, creating some affordable housing. What can we do to help break this cycle of intergenerational poverty that's occurring right here in our county? And so as we've been powwowing for the last couple of years on what does that mean, what are the skills that we can take and do. One of those that SwitchPoint's really involved in is our Circles Initiative, where we match families that are in poverty with mentors and middle class, and we really teach them how to thrive instead of just survive. But each agency is participating in this IGP committee is really trying hard to say, what's our role in this? And how do we help those families get out of this intergenerational spin?
Well, it took a long time to get into it, so I'm certainly sure it's going to take
It's not a quick
time.
fix.
So people can become mentors, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, and hopefully we can, address this issue even further in depth in the future and talk more about what the goals are and where we can get this taken care of.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Carol. And thank you. And if you have any questions, you might be able to get a hold of Carol at SwitchPoint, and she'll be able to help you. You could volunteer or do whatever to try to help out. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.